All right, so we're going to continue now based on where we left off. If you can hear me, drop a message in the chats. If you can, yeah, so that we can just kick off with the session already. So yeah, drop a message in the chats. Let's continue from where we left off. What do we have here? Let's see. All right, Samuel. I think I just have you on the call. You can help me share the detail of this call on Discord. Remember to tag everyone so that we can continue once we have one extra or two people join you. Okay. Oh, right. We have three people in the audience. Okay, so just go ahead and drop a message on Discord. Inform the others. This time around, we're going to quickly speak through some of the things that we are working on. I later realized the problem. The problem was actually the file. I think the major problem was the file. When working with Mongoose, it's kind of conflicting, right? The file itself is called a model, and we are trying to export a Mongoose model. So the file itself was the problem. I had to move it to a different file, and based on my when I checked my previous projects, I realized that I usually use the schema file instead, because that was not the real business model, of course. So when I moved it to the schema file, everything worked just fine. So that was the problem. Okay, so I think we're going to. Sorry about my voice. Yeah, sorry about my voice. But we're going to just continue from what we were working on. Okay, right. So yeah, let's see. Okay, okay, and I hope you can see my screen clearly. Let me zoom in a bit. All right, so this is what we have. For now, we have our modules, right? Feedback, and we have our controller. We're able to pass the request body. Of course, we already did our validation, and this is just a way to call our model, asking our model to create the feedback, and our model simply called the repository, right? So our model right here called the repository. Yeah. All right, so let's do this. So right now I have repository.create feedback. So if you take a look at what is going on here, you discover that the feedback collection, was moved to the schema file, right? You see we have the schema file in here. We have the Mongoose schema. Let's move this to the top. And you can see that I also have the Mongoose feedback model, right? And I call that the feedback collection right here, okay? So now that we have our schema and our model, we are simply going to, implement. I think we currently have. Let's take a look at what we have here for the feedback. So we have a submitting feedback, which is creating a new feedback. We have fetching a single feedback data, right? And we also have, I think, fetching all the feedback items, right? Okay, so yeah, so looking at what we have right now, we are going to implement that as well. We're going to fetch all the feedback data, and we are also going to fetch a single feedback. Now, for fetching the feedback data, I will personally love to, yeah, I would personally love to ensure that we have some, filtering, sorting. Well, we have done this before on a different call, right? Well, we get to work with, pagination, sorting, and filtering. I'm going to do the same thing right now. I am basically going to, grab some of the items such as, the page. I'm also going to grab, the limit. I'll set a default, of course. And I will also set a parameter. I would call that sort by or sort, right? And maybe sort order as well. Yeah, I think we can do that, right? We can do that, and we also want to check, if there is if a business was selected, right? Remember that based on what we said earlier, we want to check if a business, a specific business, right, was selected. Okay, so let's see. All right, so let's quickly dive into the code. So to get all feedback, right? I'll start from the route, of course, and we have to create, let's just duplicate this, take off the schema validation stuff. We don't need that. So right here, we're going to simply use the same item we have in our controller. Let's move this to the proper position. So we have get feedbacks, right? Our implementation is going to be right here. And that is called get feedback. So amazing. Let's just go ahead and say we have, get feedbacks. So right here, so get feedbacks, and this is get, of course, feedbacks, right? Based on what we said earlier, feedbacks. Okay, so yeah, so right here in our controller now, we are simply going to what we are simply going to do. What we're simply going to do is grab the query items from here. We'll grab the query items and we'll move the items into our model. Our model will be responsible for, passing those items as well, into the repository. And then right inside the repository, we would implement, we would connect some of those query params, straight to our user, our feedback. Before I say user, our feedback.find, right? We're going to be using feedback.find, and we will compose the query and pass in some of these items into the query, right? If some of them exist, okay, we'll pass them into the query. Yeah, so if we have like sort, I think we use sort, we use skip, we use limit. Let's just go ahead and start off with the implementation. So I'm going to first, uh, collect the query params. All right. Okay, and I'm going to say const. So let's have like our page by default. Let's just use one. So limit equals 10. That is kind of like the standard that I want. And we're going to also take sort by. So if this is passed in, we are going to be using sort by. And as I also said sort order, right? I said sort order. Okay. And this is going to come from the request.query, right? So the next thing would be to, basically compose our query object. So we're simply going to say const query, come on, my keyboard, query equals this. So that is how we're going to compose this. So let's apply some of the filter, right? Let's apply some of the filter. So let's first say if we have a sort option, yeah, if we have like some set of items, um, such as the sort by, we want to be able to check, if we have the sort by item, and we will add it into the sort option object. So if I create like a sort option object, so we want to just move all the sort options into a single, yeah. So I can simply applying, I would say applying the filter, applying the sorting um, filter, yeah. I'm simply going to say if we have like the sort by item, if something is passed in, simply go ahead and say sort options, right? And we'll add in the sort by that was passed in. So let's go ahead to say this would give us a sort order, right? So we're going to simply, say, okay, we're sorting by the sort order. That is if it is, passed in, of course. And yeah, so let's see. We are going to pick that order. Um, okay, what should I? Oh yeah, so I think this should actually. Okay, I think this is fine. So I can simply do this. I can simply say, give me this, right? Um, else work with -1, 1. Okay, yeah. I think this is exactly what should do the job. Yeah. and I'm simply going to say I want to pass some of these items. So some of these items I'm doing here, I don't want to have it in my controller. I want to basically have this happen in my model, right? I can have this happen in my model, or I can simply compose the entire thing here and push it into the model. So what I can do right now is I can push the query, I can push the sort option, right? Remember, we even said we want to be able to, sort what is coming back from. Let's take a look at the schema again. So if you take a look at this, we want to be able to specifically say we are filtering some of the items based on the business. Remember, we said that based on the business. So in order to do that, I think I can just go ahead and add filtering based on the business. I think that would make sense, right? So applying filtering by business, and what I'll just do here is I'll say if the business, so if that exists at all, go ahead and add the query dot business equals business. So just add that to the query option that we have here, right? So now we have the query, we have sort option. Let's just go ahead and call our model. I think our model is feedback model. So feedback model, all right? So let's say feedback model dot get all, oh yeah, get feedbacks. So let's check out our model. So right here we have feedback model dot this should be fetch all feedbacks. So that should be fetch all feedbacks, not get feedbacks. Go back here, fetch all feedbacks. Control C. Okay, and we want to simply pass in. We want to simply pass in the query and the sort option, right? The query and the sort options. Let's go back to the model right now, and I'm just going to pass in the query and the sort options, right? So this is where I will also pass this into my repository, because I want the repository to be in charge of doing this, right? Yeah. So I want the repository to be in charge of doing this. One thing that I also need to pass is the page. I'm going to work with the page, and of course the limits. I am thinking maybe I can pass that as a simple object. So if I pass in like data, and rather in my controller, I would basically grab the query, the sort option. I would also grab the page. I would grab the limits, because we skip some of those things, that the page and the limits, right? So yeah, we need the page and the limits. So let's do it this way. I'm going to say const data equals, and we can bring in the query, correct? We can also bring in the sort options. I can bring in the page and the limits, right? So I can simply pass the data itself in here. Okay. All right, let's see what we have. So this is basically what I just passed in. And of course, I mean, you can even choose to pass the whole thing as a single item right here. Okay. So if that is what you want to do, you can simply pass the whole thing in here. But just to keep it clean. So let's do this. All right, so now that we have this, I'm simply going to say carry as a send done for now, because I want to simply look at what the data object actually look like when it gets here. All right, so let's go ahead and open up challenge, or we can simply test from here. So feedbacks, try it out, execute, and let's see. Okay, so yeah, as expected, we have. So it says business is not defined. I was thinking I defined the business there. It seems like I did not do that. So business, okay, business. Right, let's just try that again. All right, so we have done. So let's check out. You see right now we have the query, we have sort options, we have page. Okay, good. So we don't really have any specific, item because I did not pass in the query params, of course, right? So that is fine. We did not pass in the query params or the sort options, blah blah blah. That's okay. The next thing I want to simply do right within our model is to call our repository, right? Which is I would simply say return await repository dot um, gets all feedbacks. That's in that data. So I'm not really doing a lot here, at least for now, right? So we are simply calling our repository, and we have get all feedbacks right inside the repository item there. So this is where we are going to, basically perform, use our pagination and our sorting. Some of these things we have composed already, right? Which is going to come under the feedback collection, right? I'll say dot find because that's what we need to do. I'm going to pass in the data dot query just like this, okay? And I'm going to also, do some sorting just in case. We're going to pass in the data dot, sort options, right? So yeah, I think that's correct. Sort options. That is exactly what we called it. And we're going to put the skip operators, the skip method. So we're going to have the data dot page, right? Because we have that passed into data as well. And what else do we need to do here? So by default, we are going to um, if we have a skip option, we are always going to simply skip based on the limit, right? Based on the limits that we are sending in. So I can simply say, this -1 times the limit, right? Multiply by the limit because that particular page, you want to make sure that particular page is off, right? Which is the -1, okay? And I can now say dot limit. So after taking off, after multiplying that by the limit, we want to yeah, we simply want to have our limits in here. So data dot limits, right? And I think I almost made the same mistake here. So that should be data dot limits because we're passing everything into the data. If you want to make this, less confusing, you can simply say, let, and you can, put data here. So you can of course say query, right? And what else? What else? What else? What else? Yeah, so you can say query. You can say sort options. That's correct. Yeah, so you can basically, unpack some of these things that comes up here into this part. So yeah, I think this is correct. So I can simply say query, sort options, page, and limits. I'm going to test this, right? I'm going to simply test this. I'm going to say console.log data. I'm just going to do this. Without necessarily doing anything. I just want to pass in some properties. So of course, I'm going to prefer to use Talent for this. Talent is a plugin you can install on your. It's a Chrome extension, right? So you can basically have that installed. I think that is it right here. Okay. So if I'm getting all the feedbacks, and that is a get operation, I can simply, add some of the query params, right? Such as the page. So if I say page 2, or let's say page 1, and I also put in like the limits. I want 20 this time around. And yeah, I don't want to query with, for the um, business. So let's just see what we have. We have done, but let's check this. So now you see we have page and this. Okay, good. So what if I say page and limits? So let's save that. Go ahead and try that again. Send. So now you see we have the page and the limit. So yeah, that's correct. And yeah, so I think that's fine. We are not adding specific definitions to some of these items. So let's go ahead and bring this back up. So if I'm doing this, it means I no longer need this here. So I no longer need to always add the data, take this off, take this off. So I can simply use it this way, right? And yeah, so in order to convert this into a number, we can actually pass ints, if that is correct. I think it is. I think it should be. Okay, so then what else are we looking at here? So dot limit, then dot execute. I think that is right. So yeah, if we have an error or if we have some data that comes back, let's see if this does the job. So finally, we are going to check if there's an error. We have to throw an error if there is one, right? And if there is no error, then we basically have to. Yeah, am I making a mistake somewhere? I think so. Let's see. So if there's an error, we have to throw the error. And if there's no error, we simply have to, return the feedbacks, right? Feedbacks. Okay. So yeah. I don't think I need this await here, do I? So this is basically what I have. If we have like a query based on the filter, if we are based on the business, it will get in here. But I want to also verify that, okay, just to make sure we are able to. I mean, I think that should actually work. But let's try that. So let's say we have the business, and we have a specific business, right? Let's do this. Oh gosh. I already created one, so I'm simply going to say show DBs, and yeah, so DB that you use is it use feedback. I'll say DB dot feedback dot find. Okay, so I have a business here I call Bootlick. So let's go ahead and say Bootlick. So if I send this now, of course I want to be able to see. Aha, we probably have an error somewhere. Let's verify. So we're able to get business both click, but right. Oh, right. Okay. I keep making these mistakes. Try that again. Okay, so that's fine. So I want to say response. Um, let's just see if we have some items there. So that's a promise. Right. Okay. Okay. So what if I try something else? Let's say top universe send. Get nothing. Okay. Okay. Good. Good. So okay. So I can simply say if response. But yeah, I mean, if there's no data, then it should be empty. That's fine. That's fine. I don't need to do any specific check again. So as a matter of fact, I can simply return this, right? I can simply return this from here, and I can move back into the model. I already have this returned, and back into my controller. So at the point where I call this, I can simply say, response, right, equals this. So const response equals this, and I can simply do the JSON response dot status. Remember that we have a specific pattern for our JSON feedback, right? So we want to do this message, and we also said status. Okay, if everything is fine. Are we missing anything here? 200. If something should go wrong, then this should fail. So we need to do some error handling here. All right, we definitely need to do some error handling, and we're just going to use a try catch block. And if anything should fail at any point in time, we simply want to send out the specific error that occurred. And in order to do that, let's check out our DB in the repository. Um, we can start by having try and catch. catch. Okay, error. Right. So yeah, that's fine. And straight into our model, we don't need to do any of those checks here because it's going to throw the error on the other side. So back to our controller, we can go ahead to also do the same thing here. I am pretty much comfortable with what I have here, right? I'm pretty much comfortable with what I have there. Let's close up some of the spaces. Um, yeah, but even at that, I simply want to. I simply want to. Let's do this. I'm going to have. I don't want this, you know, this amount of data just lying around somewhere. So instead, I am going to paste this. I think this is a valid thing in Python in JavaScript, right? Yeah, it is. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I just want to put my try catch block around my code here, right? And error. Okay. So yeah, I can do res.json. So this is where I put my error. The problem is we're not specifically, getting the exact, how do you specify the exact error message? That's a different thing. So whenever you're capturing some of these errors, it's a good idea to always make sure you specify, okay, what happened here, and specify the right error message. But let's just use a generic error message here, with error code. I mean, which I would simply say it's 500. And whatever error occurred, I just want to pass that out. That is not a good thing to do in production because you don't want to give users database error messages, right? So you don't want to do that. But let's just start off from there. So I'm going to say we have our status um, failed, right? And we have our message to carry the error, right? So we need a comma somewhere. Yeah, this has to be right. Okay, so this is exactly what we want to have. And I believe we can try this now. So we don't have any data. Everything was successful, but there's no data because we have top here. And if it's both click and we send, we have the data. So I think that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Are we missing anything? Are we missing anything? So I don't think we're actually missing anything with the filter, but I'm going to try the page limit. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if I limit this to just 5, I send this just to make sure. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. If I limit this to 2, I send. So yeah, I mean that works. All right. So what if I put page 2 just to see if that still works? So first of all, if I go back to page 1, the record we have here, we have an ID of 249. And let's go to page 2 and I test that. This is a different. So yeah, this is working. Um, one other thing I think we have not tried is I think that is the sort by, right? So let's do sort by, just to verify how the sort by should work again. Let me show you what I did here. So, by the time you check the controller, you see that I first had to do if I first have to check if we have a sort by value, and if it's sort by value, then we attach it to our sort option, right? And basically attaching it as uh, kind of like having a key, right? So we say, okay, the sort options this, right, should be equals the sort order, right? Which of course, has to be either descending or it's going to be ascending. So if you send in descending, it's going to give you the first value here -1. If it's ascending, you're going to have 1. That is the sort order, right? So we are simply going to pass in you know um, we are simply going to pass in that specific item, which is the key, right? And then we're going to do descending or ascending. Now let me show you. Based on our data here, we can see we have like first name, right? So do we want to sort by first name? Basically, I think all the data have the same record. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new record. Now let's use a Swagger right now to create a new record. We have, yeah, I'm just going to click on try it out, and let's put in some record here. I'm going to put like Amazon as the first name. Last name I will simply use hello world, and email. Let's leave the email. Message should be this was an interesting. Okay, this was a good service. And string for the business. Let's just say top. Oh yeah, let's also use both clicks since we're basically trying to do some sorting. Yeah? For the same record. So I'm going to execute that, and I think that was successful. So we have that record created now. Now let's go back here. Let's have all the records show up. Send. Remember, I started with A, so I need to take off the sort by first. So send. Okay, so we probably have a mistake. We've probably made a mistake somewhere. Let's see what we have now. We are looking for page one, not page two. So now we have all the records and we have Amazon right here. So I can decide to sort by, sort by first name. I'm not mistaken, that is underscore, yeah, first name. And when I'm sorting by the first name, I also want to add my, sort order, right? So let's say sort order. So for the sort order, you can either use a descending or ascending. Of course, that is the default is descending. So I want to change this to, ascending, um, or probably something else. But if I say ascending, I expect this to sort by ascending, right? Amazon first. And if I say descending, I expect this to, have Amazon last, right? So that is the sort by, which is the sort key, and then the sort order. So I think that works well for us, yeah. Let us see what next we can delve into. Okay, so yeah, yeah, okay, so let's go back to our diagram. The next thing would be to fetch a single feedback, okay? So now we want to fetch a single feedback. What I'm going to do is simply use the find, then select, I'll use the query option as well. But this time around, I basically want to use a single item. Of course, you can choose to, have this query, we can choose to work with the same style. So let me show you what I mean. If you're doing single, if you want to make it very flexible, right? Very flexible or very dynamic, I can simply, let's throw in my entire try and catch. So I'm just copying something from there. And right. So this is what I want to do. Catch. Okay. Failed message error, blah, blah, blah. Good. All right. So from our request, dot query, let's say we're trying to get a single item, which I would rather call the ID, right? That is the unique thing there. The ID, of course. Yeah, yeah. So I want to go with I want to go with the ID. So what I'm going to do right now. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is I am simply going to do. I'm simply going to first make sure that I grab this, single item, which is I will call that my ID, right? I'm assuming that we're going to pass in this ID mostly as a query param, and we're going to capture that item, So I think we have an error. What happened? I might have taken this off mistakenly, so that was sorts by, right? Okay, so let's get back here. So we're going to pick up the ID from the request.query, and we are then going to pass that ID into the into the model, right? So let's take a look at the model. What exactly do we have here? We have fetch single feedback, and we are already expecting the ID, okay? So remember to comment on your code. I will add more comments shortly. So now we are simply going to say repository, come on, repository, sorry, feedback model, not repository, dot fetch single feedback, and we're going to pass in our ID, right? So of course, await, I would say const response equals this, okay? And yeah, so now we have this specific item. We're passing this into the fetch single feedback ID. Let's jump into that. And what we are going to do right now is we are simply going to um, we are simply going to use find by ID, but we need to call the repository, right? So let's call the repository just exactly the same one liner. Await repository dot get single feedback, right? And passing that ID as well. Now let's jump into that code. Now you might be saying this looks redundant. We're just basically repeating this. Now the reason for doing this is because at some point in time we might choose to add additional code, right? But we don't want to always have to change things in the model because we want to add things related to the business. So imagine if we say when we create a new record, we want to also send an email, right, to the person, or to the person that created the feedback. This is the right place to do it, right? So when we create a new feedback, we want to send an email, so we can simply pick up the record, right? If we have some record here. So imagine if I say we have like data, instead of returning this here, I say const data. I simply come in here to say send email, right? And of course, I can send email by calling a function send email with the data.email, right? And before I return the data, okay. So that is something I can choose to do here, right? This is just an example, but I hope you get the point. So I want to do all those stuff inside my model so that whenever I'm changing the database code, I have nothing to do with altering the flow of that or the structure of what should be executed in my model, in my business model. All right. So fetch all feedback, fetch single feedback, and now that we have added this here, let's just go ahead and implement the code on our database level, right? So I am simply going to let's just try catch blah blah blah. See if there's an error. Let's throw the error. Let's just throw the error. I copy that. Okay. So we're going to say feedback collection dot find by ID right here, and we are then going to grab that our ID which we passed earlier on, right? So our ID, and yeah, so we basically pass in the ID, and I think we can simply return this to start with. We can return this. Let's see. I don't think that is compulsory, but let's do this. So if we're finding by the specific ID, we're going to pass that ID um, just like this specific ID here, which is Amazon. I am going to say slash feedback. I'm going to pass in the ID just like this. But one thing is for sure, we are yet to specify that in our route. So let's go ahead and do that. Feedback, right? And I'll say get um, single feedback, not from the repository, but from the controller. So get single feedback, okay, just like that. Okay, so we have a mistake somewhere. It says a callback function but got an object, blah, blah, blah. All right, so let's see what is going on in here. So let's go to get feedbacks. I think this should be like get feedback, right? So get feedback, okay. Yeah, that's correct. So it's get feedback, not get not get single feedbacks. So if we send it now, what do we get? It says internal server error, so something went wrong. Let's check this out to figure out what the problem is. Cannot send headers after they have been sent to the client. Okay, so let's see. Get feedback. So yeah, I need to say res.json I will love to just pick up that structure from here. 200, okay, message, response. Okay, so let's see what we have now. Send again. Uh, okay, so it says no response. We're still getting the same. Okay, so let's check this properly. When we are getting feedback, we just grab the ID, and next we grab the response from here, fetch single feedback. So yeah, and when we get this, we just set return await feedback. Okay, find by ID, um, which I think is okay. So there's nothing wrong here. There's nothing wrong with getting a single feedback. Let's go back to our model, reposition.get single feedback with the ID. I don't see anything wrong there. Now let's go back to our controller and we wait for this. Um, okay, everything seems to be fine to me. Okay, deprecated. Okay, dot send. Did I use dot send? This is dot status. That is status. That was a mistake. Okay, so it says status failed, internal server error, and let's figure out why. So I simply call this guy. Um, so I passed in the ID, correct? Did I leave something here? We have some space there. All right. So there was a space in there. That was a mistake. I think yeah, yeah. So there was a space in there which obviously should not be there. All right. So I think that actually does the job. Do we have any questions so far? So we're basically fetching the item, using the ID. Let me go back again. Feedbacks. Let's bring in all these items again, and let's try a different item. Pick this up. Do we have any questions so far? ID equals this. Send. Feedback, not feedbacks. Send. Okay. So I think that works. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So you can also select the specific fields you want if you don't want the ID or the version, right? You can select specific fields, but this actually does the job for the most part. So we're able to get, some of those. We're able to get the feedbacks or a single feedback, and we're able to create a feedback. We just need to, replicate, the same style and use that for our accounts, right? So we can simply jump into accounts for now and start off with our controller. We have the same. Remember, we have this error right here that we need to ensure we take them off so that it doesn't affect our code like the other time, right? And we don't necessarily need to put this. So if we already have this guy, I can just do this, right? So we don't need the function. We don't need this guy. All we need is this guy, just like this. Okay, so we have delete accounts, create accounts, or rather use create accounts, update accounts, right? Update accounts, and that is our controller. Now inside the model, of course, we just have to do something similar to what we've done before, right? So if you take a look at our model, it's as simple as this. Let's just grab that from here, drop it in here, and we'll take up some of the things that we are not using yet. So take up this guy, and I'll just duplicate this. So now it's going to be accounts, not feedback. Okay, so updates accounts and deletes accounts. Right? So our repository already connected. let's go ahead and grab some of the items from the repository. I am simply going to set up these things as well inside our repository. The only difference here is that we have to then import our schema, right? So like the model, so we need an account model. Also require it has to come through. This is the Mongoose model. We want to store that in the schema file, and yeah, okay. So we're going to be performing our operation, using the account model in here in our repository, and straight into the schema. I'm just going to do something similar that I already have here. So let's go into our schema here. We're going to specify some of the objects, and yeah, the first thing here would be the validation object. So when someone wants to create an account, you want to validate what they are bringing in. So this is a create account schema, right? So create account schema, and we need to put in some of those details. So let's go back to I think we have that inside our Swagger UI. So let's see for the account. Um, yeah, so to create a business, so this is it. So name, identifier, address, email, and phone number. Okay, so name, identifier, what else? Address, email, and phone number. Address, let's put that as email. Address. Okay. All right. So yeah, I mean, accept Omega 500. So the name. What if a business name only has like 3 characters? I'm just going to take this off for now. So we have name, identifier, address, email, and phone. Name, identifier, address, email, and phone. Good. So this is the schema that we use for validating our new, our new accounts, right? And we have our schema. I'm going to call that the account schema. So in here, we can also, put in some of these things: name, identifier, address, email, and phone number. Name, identifier, address, email, and phone number. Now remember that you can actually be more specific with your schema, right? You can be more specific as regarding the detail, the kind of record you want to accept, right? So try as much to be more detailed on that aspect. And we're going to call this the account collection, right? So account collection equals this. Put that in the accounts and accounts schema, right? So which is the account schema right here. So this is the Mongoose account schema and Mongoose account model. All right, so we basically have that for now. Let's check out our route. So when creating a business, we also want to do validation, right? So let's go ahead and import the schema and the middleware. So I'm going to bring that in here. Okay, so we basically have our schema right here, correct? And this is going to be a create account schema. All right. So just to verify if that is correct. So I'm going to check out the schema file, create account schema. Let's copy that back into the routes. Okay. All right. So that's correct. So when we're creating a new account, so let's do the post / business. We want to do some validation, right? So let's say we call the validate schema with the schema, and then we're going to call this create accounts. Right. So that's how we're going to create our account, right? And let's save this just to make sure we have all those records in place. Let's verify to see that. Okay. So we're going to change this. This is currently called our account, and I hope that works. Yeah, that works. Okay. So when we call / business, and we can verify that as well. So now it's / account, not business. So we'll go to / account. we want to be able to create a new account with that record. I want us to actually test this, right? Um, but yeah, we're not done. Remember, we're not done. We need to also set up our repository if that is successful. And in order to do that, we just have to pick up some of these things we already have here because that should actually do the job. So this is how we're going to create a new account collection dot create, and yeah, account collection create. And someone is asking for the validation. Can we use the npm package validator or Joy works better? Yeah, I mean, if you are more comfortable with that, I think any validator tool can actually work. I mostly use AJV in my project. I'm using Joy because it's easier to use in this example, or probably easier for you to even understand faster, right? I use AJV, but you can use Joy, you can use Zod. A lot of people use Zod, and I think Zod is very interesting as well. I've used it a couple of times, so you can try it out. But so long you're able to do validation properly, I don't think it actually matters. Just use the one that you're more comfortable with. So account collection dot create, and this is basically going to create our new account. Let's check out the model. So in the model, we of course need to also call the repository. So I'm simply going to say return await repository repository dot create accounts, right? And we're going to pass in that data. Okay, and now let's quickly jump back into our controller. So inside our controller, we have the create account thing here. I just want to pick up the um, try catch block thing. So let's, oh, we don't even have that here. Okay, all right. So right now we have to, of course, call the account model, not the feedback model here. So account model dot create accounts, all right? Sync. Okay, so bring in the account model. Okay, so let's see what we have here. Account model dot create account with the request body, create a new account, right? And yeah, I mean, let's go ahead and test run that. So if I do slash accounts and I want to make a post request for this, given the record we already have in here, simply going to copy that. So for our business, the identifier would be both click. The name would be, let's say, the Bolt Click Company. Address, I'm just going to say Ikeja, Lagos. Email, I'm just going to say boltclick at boltclick.com. The string for the phone number, I would say 0816 Okay, so let's work with this. Just to test run this and see what we have. So it says failed. There was an error, and let's try to figure out what the problem was. Okay, so yeah, let's check this again. We have slash accounts, right? Slash accounts. So let's go back to our route. Let's try to trace this from here. We basically have the slash accounts. We validated the schema, the create account schema right here, and the create account. Okay, so it's going to get here first. So let's simply say console.log request.body. Now save that and just try that one more time. So let's see, we did not send. Okay, so obviously we're not getting here. Send. Oh, okay, right. So definitely we're getting here, and it was still loading earlier. So uh, account model dot create account, and we're passing this guy. So let's go into the create account. Now we have our repository, dot create account with the data. So let's check that out. So I call the account collection, right? And within the account collection, this is what I have: account schema, name, identifier, address, email, phone number, right? With the account schema, that is pretty much right. So let's go back in here and see when we say when we say account collection dot creates. I think that is not meant to be a problem, right? Let's see. So I simply said, yeah, okay. So create that and of course return the value immediately. So that is exactly what we did here. So we're creating this. All right, all right. I think I just found out the problem. So we're not really pointing at create yet because yeah, we need to point at it this way. So before we can get create, okay, let's save that and try it one more time. It have to take some time. It is still loading up database. Okay, so let's try it now. Yeah. All right. So we're able to create that business, and I think that that is successful. Let's do the db.accounts.find. Right. So we have an account right here. One thing I actually want to do is to make sure that I change the value of our identifier. I want to append a value to the identifier. So in order to do that, I can simply decide to do that from the controller, right? Or I can choose to do that from the model. It doesn't really matter. So before creating this data, I can first decide to recompose this thing. So I can simply say we have this record, just like this, right? This is the record we have. So I can, I can do this, right? So as a matter of fact, I don't really need everything. All I need is, all I need is to pick, a specific item, which is the identifier, right? I need the value. So I just need the value. So I don't think I actually need to waste my time doing this. I can just say, const identifier equals, the data dot identifier, right? And if I pick the identifier data, I can then say, const, probably the identity. Let's just say identity or identifier value. Let's just use value equals. So what I want to do is to simply append the value of identifier plus a simple string, right? A simple at sign. So I'm just going to call identifier right here, and then before saving this item in here, I simply want to go back and say data dot identifier equals identifier value, right? So I'm just trying to, I'm making these three steps because I want you to really see, what I'm doing. As a matter of fact, you can, do this with a single line of code, right? Basically, you can just say data.identifier equals, and you can, pass in this guy right here and simply point to, itself. This is, kind of crazy, but of course you can do that, right? So I'm sure we can do this. Now let's go ahead and try that. Let's see what happens. I'm going to create a new record. This time around, I will simply say top universe as the identifier. Let's create that. So now you see we have a top universe, right? And if I do at both click again, both click, you see we have at both click, that was not created. So at both click, right? So that is exactly what I wanted to show you. So you can see we have at both click at top universe. So when you are trying to filter, based on business or whatsoever, or when the browser when they access a particular page with slash at top universe, whatever feedback that is entered will be sent to top universe, right? I think it's already 9. We have a session to jump into. Let's see. I'll just say append apps to the identifier. All right. Now, as a matter of fact, you can choose to make this append stuff happen on the front end, right? so that you don't alter your data in here. But I mean, doing it here is not really a bad idea as well. So now we're able to, save the, we're able to create an account. The next thing we have to do is just, update an account and, delete the account, right? Which is not so much of a big deal, right? It's something you can simply, we can simply do. And yeah, yeah. So I think we can actually, jump into doing that already. But I actually do want us to join our session on Discord right now. Um, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add, before I push this to you guys, what I'm going to add later today is I will just add the updates, command, as well as the delete, command, right? I'll just go ahead and add that into the code. Then I'll push it to GitHub. But I would also try as much as possible to add more comments, right? This is not descriptive enough yet. And I would definitely, ensure that everything looks good before sharing this with you. But I would share this tonight. So yeah, probably before 11 p.m. tonight, you would have this file. So guys, I hope I was not too fast. I tried my best not to be so fast, so that you can at least understand some of the things I did. But if you were confused at some point, let me know. Um, yeah. So yes, so please, the demo project 3 is still accessible. It is accessible, of course, and it's going to be integrated with Vue. I mean, that's not a problem. So with Vue, we're simply going to call this request, okay? We're simply going to call this request. I did not want to, yeah, 11 p.m. Yes, I'm going to share this project with you. I'll drop the link on Discord. Um, then probably I will make out time tomorrow morning to see how we can, just spend 1 hour 30 minutes with the front end. It's not a big deal. We already implemented a core, template and styling. So putting it in Vue is just to, aid us make that request, and of course maybe show some kind of notification once the request was successful. Now remember that we are only spending about 1 hour or 1 hour 30 minutes. So which means if you put everything together so far, we have probably spent about 4 hours 30 minutes, on this project, which I think is also too much. But of course, we are trying as much as possible to break it down and explain, right? So if you think the class is too slow when you're watching this, you can always fast forward. Okay, you can always fast forward. All right, and that will be all. Let's jump on Discord. Thank you very much for joining. I'll talk to you guys on Discord.